welcome back to my kitchen. Today I thought I'd bring you along as I make a little mini shepherd pies. The ingredients I'm going to be using are 2 pounds, of ground beef, 1 red bell pepper that I've diced, 2 ribs of diced celery, 1 medium diced onion, and roughly half of a cup of diced mushrooms. You'll also need 2 cups of chicken stock, 4 tablespoons of butter, 4 tablespoons of flour, 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce, and I don't want to forget my 2 garlic cloves that I've minced up. For the mashed potato topper, I'm going to be using about 1 to 1.5 pounds of potatoes, 4 ounces of cream cheese, and I've got 3 garlic cloves in here that I've just crushed. And then I'm also going to need some pie pastry crust. Other than some salt and pepper and maybe just a little bit of oil to saute our vegetables in, those are all of our ingredients. So let's get moved over to the stove and I'll go ahead and start bringing this dish together. Starting in a pot of cold water, I'm going to add in my potatoes and my 3 garlic cloves, some salt, and just a little bit of black pepper. I like the way the black pepper infuses into the potato chunks as they cook. It gives them a really good flavor. And I'm going to cook these on high until they are fork tender. While my potatoes are cooking, I'm going to go ahead and start browning up my ground beef. I also want to add just a little pinch of salt and a small amount of pepper. Alright guys, I'm going to let this sit here and brown for probably about 5 or 6 minutes or until it's cooked completely through. Now that I've got the hamburger all browned up, I've gone ahead and removed all the excess fat drippings from it, and I want to transfer it over into a small bowl. I'm going to add in about a tablespoon of olive oil into my pan. And then add all of my vegetables. I'm also going to add in the garlic. A little bit of salt. And a little bit of black pepper. And now I'm going to let these go for about 5 to 7 minutes or until the onions are translucent and the rest of our vegetables are tender. About 7 minutes later, my onions have started to turn translucent and the rest of my vegetables have started to soften up, but they're not cooked completely through. They still have just a little bit of give to them when you bite into them. So those are done, and I'm going to go ahead and transfer those into the same bowl that I have my ground beef in. In the same pan that I've cooked the vegetables and the hamburger in, I'm going to go ahead and start melting my butter. Now that my butter is melted, I've gone ahead and added my flour in. I want to cook this for about a minute or just until that raw flour taste has been cooked out. Now that my flour has been cooking for a couple of minutes, I'm going to go ahead and start slowly adding in my chicken stock. And then I want to be sure to whisk this very well to make sure we get all of the lumps out of it and we end up with a smooth gravy. Now that I'm pretty happy with how it looks, I'm going to let this cook and start to thicken up just a little bit. I want this to heat completely through. I'm also going to add a little bit of pepper and a small amount of salt. I am going to be putting the Worcestershire sauce in here, and that is salty on its own, so I don't want to go too far with it. Now that my gravy's thickened up, I'm going to go ahead and add in the Worcestershire sauce. And now I definitely want to check it for seasoning. It tastes really good, but it does need just a tad bit more salt. And I think just a tad bit more pepper. And then the salt and pepper is totally up to your taste. Add as much or as little of that as you want. Alright, our gravy is done. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the stove off and set it over to the side so it can start chilling down while I wait for the potatoes to finish cooking. After about 20 minutes, our potatoes are done. You can tell if a fork goes completely through it without any resistance. So I'm going to go ahead and get these drained, and then we're going to move on to making mashed potatoes out of these. Now that I've got the potatoes drained, I'm going to go ahead and add in my cream cheese. And I'm going to mash all of these together until they are as lump-free as I can make them. Potatoes are still a little bit on the stiff side, so I am going to go ahead and add just a little splash of milk, and I will add that into the ingredient list down in the description. Let me go ahead and get these stirred together, and then I'll go ahead and start assembling our little mini shepherd pies. The first thing I'm going to do is unroll my pie crust. And I'm going to take one of my disposable pie tins and just flip it over. And I'm going to measure just a tad bit larger than the pie tin itself. I'm going to go ahead and cut all the way around it. And you should be able to get roughly 3 pie bases out of each one of these crusts. I'll go ahead and pick that one up and just drop it down into my shell here, and I'll go ahead and do all 3 of those, and then I'll come back in and finagle them down to where they fit perfectly. To do that, I'm going to start by pressing down in the center, and then with the back of my finger I'm going to start pressing it all the way down into that crevice down at the bottom. These don't have to come all the way up to the top because we're going to be topping it with mashed potatoes instead of another crust. So we don't need anything for them to adhere to. With the scrap pieces from that first roll of pie dough, I've gone ahead and just started fitting them in and filling any holes and gaps. That way I'm not wasting any of that roll of pie dough. Just do your best to make it as even as possible all the way through. This one's not going to be the belle of the ball, but it's still going to taste just as good as all the others. Alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and continue filling in my pie pins, and I'll bring you back when it's time to start filling them. Now that I have all my pie shells filled, I've gone ahead and brought over our filling ingredients. I did go ahead and add the gravy to the top of the meat and vegetable mixture, and I'm going to go ahead and stir that in. Now that that's thoroughly combined, I'm going to go ahead and just start filling in my pie shells. You want to do this just till it reaches the top. You want to keep it level with the top of your pie pan. Once you get your pie shells completely filled with your filling, go ahead and start topping them with your mashed potatoes. You can either do it with a spoon like I'm doing, or you could put it in a piping bag and pipe it on top. I kind of like the rustic look of it with just the spooned on mashed potatoes, so that's the look I'm going for today. Alright guys, there we go. I've got the last one topped off. These are going to go into a 450 degree oven for about 25 to 30 minutes, or until the pie crust is completely cooked through and the tops are nice and brown. So I'll see you once they come out of the oven. The mini shepherd pies are out of the oven, and I did have to let these go for about 45 minutes. I found that the ones that I had on the lower rack in my oven browned up a little bit faster, so you may want to take that into consideration if you decide to make these. I'm going to go ahead and serve mine alongside of a side salad, but you could certainly add some vegetables if you wanted to. Let's get in here and give it a taste. It does smell really good. I'm very excited for this. I absolutely love this shepherd pie filling. I make it quite frequently. These turned out so well. The crust is really flaky, and I still have all the flavors that I normally get in my big family size shepherd pie. Perfect as a lunch meal or dinner if you add an extra vegetable. I think these are definitely worth giving a try. But that is going to be it for me for the day. If you have enjoyed this video, leave me a comment down below. If you guys tried the recipe out, let me know how it turned out for you. And as always, thank you all so very much for joining me today. I've been Vault Girl. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I hope I'll see you in the next one.